It's a lot easier to go out and tag calves with our 5-year-olds when it's 64 degrees rather than 24 degrees or 14 degrees. In times when the weather's good in May, of course it's not always good, then it's stressful, but I'm way more well-rested and able to function as a husband and a father now.
So, for my phase of life that I'm in, I'm 35 years old and I've got 2 little kids. And calving in May and June and grazing year-round, and the way we've set up our production cycle has allowed me to be that role, to be that kind of father that I want to be, and have the free time and the availability to my family to do my other roles in life besides just being a rancher. I enjoy calving season. Calving season is turned into something that's fun. It's fun to see all the new life going on out there, and it's just kind of happening all around. So I enjoy the job.
Yeah, with a son now, he's 10 years old. He's involved as well as my wife. The first few years it was tough because she was taking care of him, but he is also homeschooled, so he's always there during the day if I need help with something that I can't do by myself. If they're home, they're always there to help. So with May calving, I think he's going to be more able to get out, want to come out more because the weather's nice than when it's cold and blizzardy. I remember when I was a kid, all bundled up, standing outside, watching the gates for my dad as he fed or helping get livestock, cows in, heifers in that were calving in a storm. It wasn't fun. In May, when you just have to go out and tag him and band him. He loves to ride along when we do that and get the tag ready and put the next band on the bander for the next bull calf we come across. So it makes it enjoyable for him as well.
When we used to turn out the bulls on the 4th of July, that was our 4th of July. We missed the fireworks shows and things like that because we had to take the bulls out. Now we can if we want to go watch fireworks, we have to check cows a little earlier in the day. Those kind of things. The main disadvantage is you kind of miss your summer fun. You don't get to go to those summertime festivals because your cows need to be worked. They need to, be switched to a different pasture, those kind of things.
And so we do think about it from that standpoint as well, of just it's easier on our life and easier on our relationships, and hopefully just makes the entire experience a lot more fun for our family. I have a couple of kids, and they can come out and look at the calves, and it doesn't have to be a stressful situation. It's not a stressful, hey, we have a calf, oh, we have to tag it, oh, we have to go drag it out of the mud and put it in the barn, and now we're spending all night or till bedtime or beyond trying to get this calf dried off and put it in the tub and everything else. It's just like, oh, we had a calf, and everyone can just be excited about the fact that there's a new calf. And that's, I think, a really positive story versus, kind of the stress we typically hear out of calving. And when you think of calving season, it's kind of a big event for everyone, whereas maybe we're just trying to make calving season be maybe a big celebration kind of event, but not a big stressful event like you would expect it to be.
But it just reminds us about how labor intense it is. And not only that, but at the end of the day, quality of life is a major determining factor. And so there's always trade-offs. And for us, the bottom line is anytime we make a decision, we always ask ourselves, will this add to or take away from our quality of life? And that was probably the major determining factor why we made the switch. So calving later in the year, not as stressful on animals or on humans. And events where we're gathering and moving cattle or rounding cattle up for processing has turned into a day that I'd sooner have been just about anywhere growing up into one we kind of look forward to. And so again, it goes back to the whole issue of quality of life. And so this transition and stewardship of humans and animals has been one that quality of life for both has taken a positive move in the type of management that Luke is using currently in our operation. And I've got to hand it to him for that.
One of the things that I do miss about March calving is that all the time that I spent with my kids out in our calving barns. Bedding pens, cleaning pens, sitting in the calf house during a storm playing cards and having a Mountain Dew and a Snickers bar and just talking about life. And teaching them, how to work hard, how to stay out there in a storm and take care of those calves and suffer so that they don't suffer. And those are things that are hard to teach in other settings. So we've tried to change that. Well, one thing that we've done is we just try and force time to spend with our kids and our family in other situations. But they won't learn some of these things that they would have had learned otherwise. Coming here today, I brought one of our boys with us, and if we were doing things the way we used to do, he would be home calving out heifers and working, feeding, cleaning barns, but he's here with me today, hearing and learning what other people have to say about calving alternatives. So there's a benefit there, so we just do other things. So I've got 60 or 80 or 90 days now to spend with my family that I didn't before. I did spend some time with them, some small segments of time that I did cherish in a way, but now I spend a lot more time with them. I don't know if that's the right word, counsel, but I spend a lot of time with my kids, my married children, in talking about life and their marriages and their families and how they can make it through their struggles, where I didn't used to have that time before. And this is a good time of the year to do that. And so we've actually been doing some of that.
Leslie and I married 30 years, 5 kids, 3 girls in the front, 2 boys in the back. I honest to God, I'll say it, I built a ranch off my kids. I set money aside, paid for their college, but I built my 3 daughters. If I drop dead this morning, calve 1,000 cows before you get out of bed, get out of the way. My youngest son's got muscular dystrophy. We deal with that the best you can. You just roll on. I mean, he fits in good our operation. He's part of the mix. We got a feed lot, feed 1,500 cattle. Besides, we buy feeder cattle, besides our own calves and that. We'll kind of do about anything. Well, the only thing we don't have is we're down to 1 chicken and we got no hogs, but we got some sheep. My 3 daughters were all worth a dowry. I mean, they were all worth. I kid my son-in-law all the time. It should have took 200-300 cows to get her.
Well, there's some things we have to let go, and there's some improvements that I wait for my kids to come home, and then we'll go put in a half-mile of fence or whatever we need to do when I need help. But one of my kids, or 2 or 3, or even all 5 of them, will come back and help in certain situations.
And on the personal side, the home life, when we were calving in the midst of storms, so many calves came in the house, in the bathtub, in the barn, under the heat lamps. It's my advice to the younger people that are contemplating, per se, moving their calving date, making life easier, your children coming up. We would have had much more family time, especially during calving, but all year round, because the weather wouldn't have dictated that we had to stay home, check cows, we had to stay home and feed, we had to, that we had to do those things. I think it would have made us more putting the family first and enjoying doing those things. But at that point, we didn't know what we didn't know. Okay, the question was it an issue having basically the calves coming in the house? And of course, the kids thought it was great. Me, maybe not so much. We would barricade the utility room and try to keep them in there. Sometimes they were walking down the hall, and the kids thought it was wonderful. So in that sense, it was good. But in the sense of the work and how exhausted their dad was at the end of the day, that he didn't even have time to sit and cuddle with them. Or you can't believe how the workload and the mental stress, how much that lessened when we went that route. If we had it to do over, it would have been nice to have done that from the get-go, 46 years ago.
It's always been a family operation. The kids helped us get kind of started in a lot of the ways because they rode, we sorted cattle, they worked the corrals, they helped calve. They would even rub calves down when they came into the house when we used to calve in the bad winter months. So we decided we don't need to work that hard, and it became more of a fun chore, not a job chore. So the kids were able to, they'd go grab the horses in, and they'd take a ride, go check, all on their own. They'd come back and tell us what calved, and so we'd go back out and tag calves. So it's been a very more family-oriented, not job-oriented. You wouldn't believe how many calves I had in this. We had a little 2-bedroom trailer house because we weren't allowed to move into his grandparents' house because they had the living will when we bought the place. So we lived in a little 2-bedroom trailer house. So we had Charolais calves. They would shove me up and down the hallway, and the kids, they half the time were riding them down the halls in through the house because we had nowhere else to go with them. Or then they all got shut in the bathroom during the night before we could take them back out. It gives you more freedom because like all of our kids are grown up now, but before they were all in sports, they all rodeoed, and both of our families live 2 hours south of us. So for us before to just pick up and leave, we couldn't do it. So we hosted Easter, we hosted different holidays because we couldn't go anywhere. But now we're just kind of like, sure, we'll just pick up and go. So that makes it a lot easier on the family side of things also. When we start calving, we're usually about 2 miles to a mile away from the house. So we just ride out and go check and come back and do about our day what we needed to. So the kids even got to be, when they were younger, they didn't go so much with us unless we had to take a pickup, and then we'd take them out. But to me, I could tell you stories about stuff with that part of taking the kids with us because they're quite eventful. And the kids still remember those days, but now I think it's more enjoyment because they just go out and they can just ride. We don't have to have struggles throughout every day. I would have probably 10 calves at one time in the house. Oh, they just thought it was they would have towels and they were rubbing the calves down, and I lived in the calf warmer most of the time in the barn. So yeah, to me, I wasn't connecting with the kids. I wasn't connecting with the ranch, and Bart and I were not connecting when all of that was going on. We were just surviving. Mm-hmm. A neighbor made a comment one time. They're like, well, because our kids ride very well. And they're like, well, yeah, because they had to ride before they were 9 months old. So, because I rode even when I was pregnant. I mean, that's just how we did things. We just have to go do it. And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything, even from me being a city girl.
This is our God's little blessing for us. We have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and now we have a baby. We're both generational ranchers. I grew up on a ranch, not very far from my husband, and so we both have goals in mind as far as our kids go to teach them skills and work ethic, whether or not they come back to the business. I hope they do. But in order to do that, which is what is awesome to be able to teach our kids work ethic and skills, is with later calving date, they'll be able to be involved with it more because it's not so miserably, horribly cold outside. You know, we can put them on a horseback, they can pair out, make good horses, make good kids, because the weather isn't, 15 below with the wind blowing, and you feel like a really dirtbag parent making your 9-year-old kid be outside. And so that's what's exciting, being able to calve later, because it's definitely more enjoyable. Well, I had great mentors. My mom was a city girl, but she was an awesome ranch wife. She was a city girl. She didn't necessarily like animals. She really didn't like horses, but she did it all, along with feeding a crew and driving a wheat truck to riding horses, and so I had, and then my grandma. My grandma was awesome. She was this little tiny gal, and up into her 70s was out farming and building fence. So, you know, I don't know. And then my great grandma was the same way. As far as, you know, being different in March, I think it's because I can be out there enjoying it with my kids, whereas you know, later, the calving later on, I can enjoy with my kids better than like in March. I always felt torn with helping my husband and being in the house taking care of my kids because it's miserable out, or feeling sorry for my kids because it's miserable out. Where in May, you know, with the baby and older kids, I can be out in our little Toyota. My older kids are comfortable and happy, horseback, and we all are much more happy because the weather is nice, and we've all been there, and you know, that's just part of being a ranch wife, is that calf pays for the bathtub and pays for the hot water, and you understand that, and you know, Clorox can do amazing things, but it's not enjoyable. It's not enjoyable to watch a calf lay in the bathtub and fight for his life. That's heartbreaking. And then, you know, and then to try to scrub the filth off the bathtub when you're exhausted and there's, you know, more calves in the muck and the mire outside, it's not a great efficient use of your time. And yeah, it's funny, and you got to laugh about it, otherwise you're gonna cry. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. You look at it and you think, why, you know, the choices I've made have resulted in this, and it makes you think, well, why are we doing this like this?
We have 5 children, 2 married, 2 going to be married in May when we calve, 8 days apart, and guess what? Cows can calve on their own, so we can be gone. So that's a beautiful thing. And then one that's is still in college. And have grandkids now, and travel here and there to see grandkids or babysit grandkids. So that's what we're doing right now for family.
Later calving has opened up our time, so we'd have time to go with the kids in the spring to their rodeos and sporting events and whatnot. We're able to go help other people set up grazing systems, like you're talking about the posts, and we can be out there building fence or whatever. Wild cows are calving, and we don't have to be there. Could we have kept managing that way and stayed a husband and a father? I don't believe so, because we come home the day after we were married and a calf was chasing her down the hallway of our trailer house, you know. And at the time I said, well, we could go for romantic walks and stuff like that. Well, now we don't need to. We can, you know, we enjoy that time together. And all the time that you're out there in the night and working and freezing your tail off, you know, you can be inside with your family and guiding them and loving them. So like this year we had the opportunity, and we took in 3 kids to live with us, and they come the first of the year, and it's, you know, it's the middle of February, end of February now, and they go with me to do chores and whatnot. And if I was out there calving and trying to get cattle in the cold and the freezing cold, there's no way we could have done that, you know. And so so kind of paying it forward in a sense is, we have the opportunity, we have the time, and we can manage, you know, the cows and the calves that way with another generation or a new generation of kids, and expose them to agriculture as well. Actually, that was one of the things that helped us move. Was we were calving in March, and our oldest son was like 4 or 5 years old, and he was walking behind me through the barn, and everything had to be in the barn because it was cold. And he tripped and fell down over cow crap, you know, and the cow in the panel next to him just smashed the panels, you know, up, and trying to get to him, thinking he was a dog or something. And it kind of hit me there that things needed to change. Our kids were always horseback, you know, and I know there's kids probably on four-wheelers or something like that too, or in a pickup, but they're out there, but the cow's not as stressed being out there, and because you're there and she's not in the barn, the kids aren't as stressed. The horse, you know, they're just riding along checking things, and it's it never was an issue calving later on green grass with the kids out in the pasture. It really actually just reduced the whole worry of kid being stuck in a snowbank or walking through and checking cows, and you know, they could go do that at a younger age actually, and they were safer than it was in the lots.
Yeah, so with me and my wife, we got three young daughters, 2 teenagers, and a 10-year-old at home, all part of the ranch. Ranching's supposed to be fun, and I love it, and you're supposed to enjoy what you do and love what you do. Well, last year was a pretty tough year, pretty tough, and tough on my family, my wife, and so she's all for this May calving, going to niche markets. It's something our family, we set goals together, and we come up with our mission and vision together, and we're starting to finally get to our mission and vision that with the two of us and our girls seeing, you know, where we want to be.
It was really stressful back when our 2 daughters were in school and playing 4 or 5 sports a year and going to all their events and school events, sporting events, and trying to ranch too, you know, and her teaching. And yeah, I think it's just a culmination of everything, just kind of a burnout, you know, that finally just triggers that. I guess what triggered me is being out in the barn one night when it was below 0 all night, you know, after sorting and cows all day and feeding, and, you know, just decided I can't do this anymore.